Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden, but we're going to head up towards Gothenburg once again, Göteborg as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital up on the west coast, and we're going to return to a brewery who you've seen me review a good number of things from, and this is a series that I always like visiting every month when they release the new one. So for this review then we are going to go back to OO Brewing, and we're having a look at yet another beer from the 50/50 series, which of course is their dual hopped IPA series that they do. So the one this month is called Mosaic Nelson Sauvin. So the full title of this beer is the 50/50 Mosaic Nelson Sauvin, and again this is a New England IPA coming in at 6.5% ABV. So as I've mentioned in previous reviews, there is a little bit of continuity with these ones. So the hop that they used last month was the Mosaic, which was colour coded green, and then this month they've added to it with the Nelson Sauvin, which is colour coded blue. So yeah, two of my favourite hops in this one. Mosaic of course is an American hop. Comes in with somewhere around the region of 13 or 14% alpha acid. Usually gives you a lovely kind of tangerine flavour with a little bit of a more oily orangey character to it as well. Nelson Sauvin of course is a very famous, well I say famous but you know within beer circles, a very famous and well known hop from New Zealand. It gives you that lovely kind of white grapey, green grapey, almost gooseberry type flavour sometimes, and that one can come in between 13 and 16% alpha acid, so it is a little bit of a monster. I think Nelson Sauvin was the first New Zealand hop that everyone outside of New Zealand really heard of, and of course there's a whole variety of Kiwi hops these days that you should check out. There's some real gems down there, and I discovered those back in 2015 when I was down there. But yeah, Nelson Sauvin I guess is the godfather, the grandfather I guess you could say, of New Zealand hops. But yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out. I like this series because you can always use it for educational purposes, so if you do want to learn about hops, yeah, the 50/50 series from OO Brewing is definitely a good way to go. I wish they would do a few more 100 series beers as well, because they do. The very first one they released in January of 2020 was the 100 Citra, and then it's been 50/50s after that. They release a different 50/50 every month through the Lokal Småskaligt assortment in Systembolaget here in Sweden. But yeah, very good series of beers for educational purposes. I would love to see them do more 100 series though, and I'd also love to see them do these beers as West Coast IPAs. It'd be nice to have a hazy version and a West Coast version, but yeah, we'll see how we do. But yeah, 6.5% New England IPA, this one as always with this series, and Mosaic and Nelson Sauvin hops in it this time. So yeah, let's see how we get on then. Always cool to review new beers from OO Brewing, very well respected brewery over here in Sweden. So yeah, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from OO Brewing before. I think this is review number 10 or 12 or something like that, but no doubt there will be some more in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you again about OO Brewing. So as I've told you already, OO Brewing are based in Gothenburg, or Göteborg as you would say in Sweden, up on the west coast, and the company was founded back in 2011 by Olaf and Ole Andersson, who are childhood friends, and for many years they were also avid home brewers. The name OO of course comes from the fact that their names both begin with O. Olaf, Ole, there you go. But the pair have always been very interested in beers, and Ole was apparently heavily involved in the Gothenburg beer scene since pre-drinking age. He was the original head brewer at Stigbergets Brewery, and this is where the original OO beers were produced, and you know, he really made his name as a brewer by producing the GBG Beer Week beer, I believe 2016 if I'm remembering the years correctly, but he was the one who really kind of pushed the hazy IPA style here in Sweden, and a lot of other breweries have kind of followed suit there. And of course at the same time there was the Narangi from OO, but Ole Ole, of course, was responsible for the GBG Beer Week beer, the Narangi with OO, and then the amazing Haze and Muddle and other things that really kind of propelled Stigbergets up the ladder. But while Ole takes care of the brewing side of things, Olaf is managing the business side of the brewery. He also works in Copenhagen at a marketing agency, but I think there are plans for him to go back to Gothenburg and get a bit more kind of hands-on with the brewery, if you like. He does, he does most of his work by distance, from what I understand. But these guys just apparently enjoy making beers that they would enjoy to drink themselves. But as of April 2017, Ole left Stigbergets and invested his time fully in OO Brewing, and the company invested in their own brewery facility in Hisingen near the Tingsted Bridge, and this is equipped with a 2,000 litre brewing system, and that means that in total they can brew up to 500,000 litres of beer per year. In the first year they produced around 100,000 litres of beer per year, and they're going through a kind of basically an expansion plan, if you like, to build up to capacity over the next few years. As of July 2020 though, when I'm filming this review for you, they have produced in the region of 65 different kinds of beer, and in my experience, these guys they mainly, they are mainly brewing IPAs, New England hazy IPAs, but when they try their hand at other styles as well, they also turn out to be very, very good. I mean, I think the first dark beer I tried from these guys was the Arctos Imperial Stout. They've also got the Long Boil Barley Wine. I'm not sure if they are still releasing those, of course, but those were always very nice. And two of my favourite older beers from these guys, of course, you had the Narangi, which is a lovely New England IPA, the Muscles and the Evergreen IPAs, the more West Coasty type IPAs that they did, were also very, very nice. Recently, I think my favourite beer from these guys has been the Charismatico. That's a beautiful New England double IPA, that one. I really, really like that beer. Probably the best one I've had from OO so far, actually. Yeah, definitely a Swedish brewery that I would recommend that you check out. They're also very good at lager beers with the Ekta Pils, so I would recommend that you check out that. Peter, the Master of Hoppet's favourite Pilsner beer. And I could see why with that, I can see why he likes that one. But yeah, a very, very capable brewery, this one in my mind, and very capable at different styles as well. So yeah, keep an eye on these guys and see what you can get a hold of. But as I said, the 50/50 series and the 100 series are very good for educating yourself about different hops and things. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about OO Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more, of course, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And of course, you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on to the tasting section of this video then. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open up. As you can see, it is pretty typical of the other beers in this series. The green, of course, on this one signifies Mosaic, and the Nelson Sauvin is colour coded with the blue. So the next beer will be blue on the top, I think, and there will be something else. I'm curious about the next one. Years ago they had Nelson Sauvin Enigma. Enigma's a beautiful hop from Australia, by the way, that is, in some ways it's quite similar to Nelson Sauvin. It's got the white grapey characters, but it's also got some lovely kind of cranberry red fruity notes to it. So I'm hoping that that's what the next one in this series is. I would absolutely love that. But yeah, 50/50 this one. As I say, 6.5% New England IPA, and on the back of the can there you can see the OO Brewing symbol, and of course there you also have the kind of standard sort of, how do you say, labelling, I guess the standard sort of label that they always put on all of their beers. But yeah, 440ml can this one. I think I paid 45 Swedish kroners for this, so that's the equivalent of like £4. 4 British pounds, and about, yeah, €4.50, something like that. So maybe $4.50, $4.50 American, I would say. But yeah, let's get this guy out then, and we will get on with the tasting. Very curious to see how this one turns out. And I didn't say it actually, but this one was released on the 1st of July 2020 through the Lokal och Småskaligt assortment in Systembolaget here in Sweden. And as I tell you, I always review the 50/50 release from OO Brewing, because I really enjoy tasting the hops and seeing, focusing on how these hops pair together. So yeah, as you can see with this one, and as you would expect from a New England IPA, this one has poured a lovely kind of bright I'd say that this one's it's more a kind of ambery yellow, this one. It does have a little bit of an amber hint to it. You can see the head on this one has poured to be about a finger and a half actually. The head on this one is pretty big. I'm not sure if I gave it quite an aggressive pour there, but yeah, 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass. You can see the beer does have a good degree of haze to it. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see there's not much light coming through it, but if we actually shine the light through it, I would say that this isn't the soupiest and gloopiest of New England IPAs that you're going to come across. Of course, that depends on how much oat and how much wheat you actually have in the beer, but of course it usually gets hazier and, you know, gloopier and soupier, if you like, the higher you go up the alcohol scale. But yeah, nice looking beer, this one. Nothing particularly surprising about it when you consider what style it is. So yeah, I like how this one, I like how it goes together in terms of its appearance. So yeah, let's have a look at the aroma and see how we get on with this one. Nothing surprising about this beer's appearance. So yeah. Ooh, this does smell really nice. Yeah, if you've watched the channel before, you will know that I'm an absolute sucker for orangey leaning IPAs. You know, back in the day, my favourite hop was Amarillo. I loved the big kind of oily orange character that you would get out of that one. So I mean, these days in terms of orangey hops, you've still got Amarillo, of course, but it seems to have been dropped in favour of Mosaic, because Mosaic has a little bit more complexity to it. So Mosaic has that lovely orangey thing. You've also got Azaka, which has a little bit of tropical fruit to it as well. Sabro can give you some nice orangey characters as well. Mandarina Bavaria from Germany's got some lovely orangey notes. In New Zealand, of course, you have the Waiiti, if I'm remembering correctly, and also Pacifica has a good bit of orangey quality to it as well. So I love these big orangey leaning IPAs. And straight away when you go into the aroma of this one, it's lovely and oily and orangey, and I really love that about it. And the aroma in this is very, very nice. I don't know if they change the base in these beers depending on what hops they have, because obviously OO Brewing, very well versed in the New England IPA. I'm not sure if it is the same base, if it's exactly the same base beer all the time, or if they up the oak content or take down the wheat, or, you know, just tweak it depending on what hops. I'd be curious to know that. But yeah, the malt base in this one is backing it up very nicely. But straight away when you take this one in, you're going to notice the oranges. I think the Mosaic jumps out of the aroma a little bit more than the Nelson Sauvin does in this one, to be honest. But when your nose adjusts to it and gets over the initial kind of impact, if you like, you start to notice the Nelson Sauvin qualities a little bit more. But yeah, on the malty side of things then, this beer is actually, it's very well balanced in the malt base. I find this one to be a little bit kind of sweeter in the malt base compared to some of the other ones that I remember in this series. I do remember the other ones not being quite as kind of biscuity and things as this. But yeah, for this one you do get a nice little bit of that kind of white bready base to the beer. You can smell a little bit of the bitiness of the wheat towards the back of the palate, but you also get the kind of smoother oaty notes in there. But for me, this one seems to have a little bit of that almost McVitie's digestive biscuity, that kind of grainy sweet biscuity kind of thing coming out of it, which is really nice. It does almost smell a little bit more boozy than some of the other beers I've had in this series before, and I'm not sure if that's just the way the hops are interacting with some of the different things from the malts and the yeast. And of course the thing that would be different about this one compared to the last one would be the thing that would be there would be the Nelson Sauvin hop actually. So this might be an interesting little nuance about that hop. But yeah, I do think this one has a little bit more of that kind of, it's got a slightly like Werther's Original, a mix of a Werther's Original and sort of McVitie's digestive biscuity quality. There is a little bit of sweetness coming out of the malt base in this one there. And I do like the New England IPAs that just have that little bit of slightly brown sugary sweetness to them. I really like that. So I'm wondering if this beer will have that. And I did notice that it's a little bit more, I think this one's a little bit more ambery than some of the other ones that I've had in this series too. So maybe they have changed the base a little bit actually, because the last one was quite, you know, smooth. I think this one is going to be a little bit sweeter. So the malt base in this one for me, I think they've got it down nicely. In terms of the hops though, let's focus on the hoppy side of the beer now, because that is what the 50/50 series is all about. So for me, this one, You do get a little touch of earthiness out of this straight away, but the green side of the beer really is leaning towards the floral side of things. And you know, with these two hops, they're both very high alpha acid. That is to be expected. That's one of the things I've always found surprising about Nelson Sauvin. Nelson Sauvin is actually, you know, 16. It's very high alpha acid, about 16%. So it's bigger than Citra, and it's bigger than you know, like the other hops that are very common, like Mosaic and things like that. But you know, Nelson Sauvin always gives you a lovely soft gooseberry, white grapey type flavour. And I always just find that really surprising that it is such a beast in terms of its alpha acid as well. But yeah, there's a hell of a lot of nice kind of floral aromatic qualities coming out of this one. There is a bit of lighter grassiness, but really the green side of the hops in this beer leans towards that big kind of floral side of things, but definitely at the front of the nose you will get a little bit of a kind of grassy aroma coming out of it, and if you pay attention to that grassy side of things, that's where you start to get the gooseberry and the sort of white green grapey notes that are sort of synonymous with Nelson Sauvin. You really start to notice that with this beer. But yeah, the aroma of this one, it's absolutely beautiful. As I say, straight away you get some lovely oily orangey notes out of it. There is a bit of a kind of citrusy zest, almost like, I think if I was blind spelling this, I might guess there's a wee bit of like Centennial or something. It does have a wee bit of that almost lemony kind of zesty quality to it. But yeah, the gooseberry, white grapey notes come out there next to the kind of grassy notes on the front. But I do think, in terms of aroma, I think the Mosaic, the kind of the orangey, tangerine notes in this one almost overpower the kind of white green grapey notes in this actually. But yeah, as I say, as your nose gets used to it, you do start to pick up more and more of the Nelson Sauvin ones. They are there, but I think, yeah, you have to pay attention to the aroma a little bit more to get them, in my mind. But yeah, once your nose is used to it, you will get those lovely white green grapey gooseberry type notes. But yeah, take a bit of time and enjoy the aroma of this one, because you've got some really interesting things going on in this beer. But yeah, let's have a taste of this now and just see how we get on. This one is the 50/50 Mosaic Nelson Sauvin from Brewing in Hisingen in Gothenburg on the west coast of Sweden, the latest instalment of the 50/50 series. So yeah, let's get stuck in. One of my favourite series of beer to review. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Oh yeah, that's really nice actually. Yeah, I think I've got a feeling, maybe wrong right enough, but I've got a feeling that they've changed the malt base in this very slightly. I think they've tweaked it, because this one does feel just a little bit different. As I said, it could be the fact that the hops in this, I think the two hops in this are, you know, ridiculously high alpha acid. Mosaic usually about 14, Nelson Sauvin normally coming in about sort of 15-16%, so it could well just be some of that, but I think the malt base in this is slightly different compared to the others. But yeah, this one, big thumbs up from me. I think this one might well be my favourite one yet. But as I say, you know, to be honest, I was kind of expecting that, because I do really like both of these hops. But yeah, where to start with this one then? So middle third of your palate and the back third of your palate, you can feel straight away it's just kind of blanketed with that lovely white bready base. As you go towards the back of the middle third of your tongue and towards the final third of your tongue, you'd really get a nice little bit of a kind of wheaty bitiness out of this beer. It's not too prominent. I mean, it's not on the same level as like the Trillium IPAs and things like that you're going to get, where the wheat really takes the kind of the centre stage in the beer. It does just have a little bit, and you'll find that kind of develop the further you go into the aftertaste. But yeah, the way this one comes out is nice. I think I like the way the malt base, I think, has a bit more complexity to it as the flavour develops compared to some previous iterations of this series, if you like. But yeah, you do get a little bit more of a kind of, there's a very slight graininess to this one. in the back third of the palate too. But yeah, it's the bitiness of the wheat that really lingers there, and the complexity to the malt base is kind of in the middle of the palate there. Like I say, the middle of your tongue is just blanketed with a little bit of a kind of white bready quality. You know, as I say, the middle of your palate, if you go into the very centre of your tongue, you can feel a little bit of that sort of oaty creaminess coming out of this one. The oats aren't as kind of thick, I think, in this one as they were in some of the other versions of the beer, but in the very centre of your palate there is a very kind of slight kind of sweeter caramelly note coming out of this one, but very, very slight. I would say it is more that Werther's original McVitie's digestive biscuit sort of thing. There is a little bit of that in the very centre of your palate, so it has got a wee bit of that slightly oily light brown sugary note there. But yeah, as you move further out from the centre of your palate, I think it is a little bit more biscuity, but it's a lot less prominent, I think, that flavour than the aroma would make you think. Yeah, it's when you first take the beer in, it is actually quite sweet in the middle of your palate, and you can feel the sweet caramel is there, and as you move out, more Werther's originally biscuity, and then the further you go into the aftertaste, it does fade away, and it just gives way to, you know, the kind of white bready, wheaty base. As you move further forward in that middle third of your palate, that's when you start to get the more kind of oaty, creamy notes out of this one. So yeah, that really comes out of that at this point. But yeah, I really like how the flavours in this one go together. Let's kind of stick the last of the beer in the glass there. But yeah, as I say, this one, I think the breadiness of this beer kind of thickens up a little bit the further that you go into the aftertaste as well. But if you go to the sides of the palate, it's got a lovely kind of spiciness to it. But yeah, I think the oatiness, the further you go into the aftertaste, the oatiness kind of comes out of it, and you might even get one or two very, very tiny woody undertones to it, but that's very minimal. You can kind of neglect that, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think the malt base is a little bit more, it does feel a little bit sweeter in the beginning of the flavour of this beer compared to some of the other versions in this series. But yeah, it's very, the malt base I think is very nicely done. If they have tweaked the malt base in this, I do like what they've done with it, but I think it's a little bit less oaty, a little bit more bready, and just a little touch kind of sweeter in things as well. But it does retain, I was thinking in the aroma that it was going to be less smooth and more sweet compared to some of the other ones. I thought it was maybe going to be a little bit more like the Charismatico, to be honest, but it's not. It does retain that smoothness that you would normally associate with the series. I'm not sure if the base that they use in this is similar to the Narangi or whatever, but yeah, still quite a smooth New England base, this one. On the hoppy side of things then, let's focus on that now. As I say, this is what the 50/50 series is all about. There is a nice little bit of an earthiness in there. That will be mainly from the Mosaic. It does give you a little touch of an earthiness, but that very quickly fades away as you come further forward. As you go further forward along the sides of your palate, you will get a nice bit of floral aromaticity of this beer, a little touch kind of spicy almost, but not too much. Then round the very front curve of the palate, you've got a lovely little bit of lighter grassiness in there, and I do like how that goes together. The nice grassiness suits the sort of Nelson Sauvin lighter fruity notes in the beer. So yeah, as I always say, on the front third of your palate, just behind the very front curve of the tongue, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters start to push their way out of the beer. And for me, this one, it has, if you go towards the back of that front third of your tongue, it does have a little bit of the kind of stronger kind of citrusy notes coming out of it, so I think that's the Mosaic that's giving you that. You do get a little bit of the kind of citrusy zest, if you the sort of soury citrusy notes towards the back of the palate there. But yeah, as you kind of come further forward from that, you can feel, I think the Nelson Sauvin on that front third of your tongue, the Nelson Sauvin, the sort of grapey flavours are forming the kind of base, the sort of base of the fruity part of the beer. But yeah, as you move further forward on the palate there, you do get a little bit more of a kind of oily orange towards the front part of your tongue. It's almost on the front half of that front third of your tongue that you get the more oily, orangey type flavours, and then you can feel underneath it the sort of white, green, grapey notes from the Nelson Sauvin there. I think the grapey notes, as I say, are like forming the base, and it's almost like the beer just gets slightly more kind of gooseberry-like as you reach the kind of tip of the tongue. So yeah, I really like how that develops there. I've never seen that, like the Nelson Sauvin sort of blanket the front third of the tongue in that way, and I've never seen the Mosaic really come out towards the back of the palate, towards the back of that front third of your tongue in the same way. So it's quite cool that, you know, when you focus on these ones as a pair, you start to notice how the flavours, you notice them in different parts of the palate. That's one of the things that I really like about this series, is that it really makes you consider exactly what's going on with these different hops in the beer. So yeah, the way that the hoppy flavours are coming out in this is a little bit different, and that's what I really like about this this particular beer series. But yeah, let's focus on the mouthfeel of this thing then. So yeah, I would say with this one, it's kind of mid-bodied. It's typical for all of the, this is kind of typical for the 50/50 series, if you like. I would say that overall this one, I find this one to be a little bit more oily than some of the other ones in the series, but I would say that it's it still retains mainly the kind of smoothness. But yeah, definitely a mid-bodied beer. The carbonation is very smooth. There's a little bit of an oily character to it, but at the same time it is mainly quite you know, it mainly is quite smooth. The hoppy side of things, it does have a nice kind of, it's got the kind of standard New England IBUs, about 30ish. I'd be surprised if it's more than that, but you know, I think at a push it could be 40. As I say, both of these hops in here are higher alpha acid, and the bitterness of course depends when in the brew that they actually add the hops. But I suspect this one, it's a lot of late boil additions, because it isn't the most bitter of beer. Earlier on, if you add the hops, of course, you will get more bitterness out of it. That's the thing with West Coast IPAs. But yeah, nice, about 30 IBUs with this beer. The malt base, like I said, is rather kind of smooth. It's not really creamy, this one, although you do get a little bit more creaminess out of it the further you go into the aftertaste. A little tiny touch of sweetness, but not too much in fairness. But yeah, smooth malt base, little tiny sweetness, like I said. Good little bit of nice kind of floral aromaticity out of the beer on the sides of the palate, but not too much bitterness. And then the fruitiness for me, it's more, I'd say it's more oily. The fruitiness is more oily for me. Oh, well, actually, I'd say there is an element of oiliness to it, and that helps the orangey flavours come out. And I think it also does help the kind of white, green grapey notes a little bit as well. But yeah, I would say there is an element of oiliness to this one, but at the same time, it does retain a bit of that typical juiciness that you'd expect of the New England IPAs as well. But yeah, a very, very nice New England IPA, this one. Big thumbs up from me. I think this one could be my favourite one in the 50/50 series so far. So give this a go for yourself and see what you think. It's really cool to see how these two hops in particular act together, because they are two of the higher alpha acid hops on the market from what I gather. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the 50/50 Mosaic Nelson Sauvin from OO Brewing, the July 2020 release in Sweden through the Lokalas Moskalit in Systembolaget. Very curious to see what the next one is. As I say, a couple of years ago, maybe about 2 years ago, they had the Nelson Sauvin Enigma. And Enigma is a beautiful hop from Australia with the kind of green grapey qualities that you expect of Nelson Sauvin, but it's got some kind of cranberry, red fruity notes to it. It's not a hop you see in Europe all that often. I would love to see them. I would love to see them kind of bring back that beer. I don't know. I've got my fingers crossed for that. I'd love to see them release the Nelson Sauvin Enigma, but we just need to wait and see until the start of August. But yeah, it's been awesome to review this beer for you. I hope you've enjoyed another instalment of the OO 50/50 series, and I look forward to the one next month. You probably will be waiting until next month, until my next OO review, but many good beer reviews to come up before then. But yeah, thank you again for watching. As always, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from OO Brewing. We will return to these guys within the next month. And do check out this 50/50 series. Very good for educational purposes when it comes to beer, and I've really enjoyed this one. I think my favourite in the series so far. So yeah, this was the 50/50 Mosaic Nelson Sauvin 6.5% New England Hazy Style IPA from OO Brewing in Gothenburg here in Sweden. Until the next time, Slanja just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slanja, skål, make sure you check out OO Brewing from Gothenburg. Cheers.